We are live. Welcome to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Q&A. My name is Lee Hayward, and today is a Valentine's Q&A. So if you're not out on a Valentine's date, maybe you'll be willing to join me for a Q&A. And if you are out on a Valentine's date, well, then you can catch the replay after, because the replays are always posted up after these video chats are saved and recorded and uploaded. So hopefully this is coming through loud and clear on your end. It seems to be coming through loud and clear on mine. And I kind of got a feeling, since this is Valentine's Day, there may be less of a turnout. And if that's the case, then that's fine, because those of you who do turn out, or turn up, I should say, and show up, we'll be able to focus primarily on you and your questions. And that's the way these live stream Q&A work, is I'm going to be hanging out here for the next hour, answering questions and topics of discussion that you have related to fitness and nutrition, health and wellness, any specific challenges regarding building muscle, losing fat, anything along those lines. Feel free to type those questions and topics of discussion into our chat window, and I'll do the best I can to help you out over the course of our video chat today. And this is something that I do pretty much every Friday. I mean, sure, there's some times when I can't make it, but more often than not, I would say probably about 49 or 50 Fridays out of the year, you can find me here on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel, doing these live streams, Q&A. All right, so who do we have joining in? First off, I want to make sure that this is actually coming through loud and clear. So for those of you who are tuning in right now, if you can hear me, if you can see me, this is coming through loud and clear, please let me know. And we're streaming from the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel, as well as the Facebook page as well. All right, so Robert's joining in. Robert's a regular, saying coming in loud and clear. Thank you, much appreciated. AJ wants to know if I'll be, will you be my Valentine? Sure, for the next hour, I am your Valentine. And everybody who's tuning in, we're Valentines. There we go. Right, getting a heart coming through. Okay, lots of love, lots of bromance happening here today on Valentine's Day. All right. Anyway, I'm going to be here for an hour, and then I'm going out and actually spending some time with my Valentine and with my, I don't know, what will I call Harvey? My Valentine and my Tasmanian devil. There we go. So let's see. Jose is joining in loud and clear. Hello, listening while doing Uber Eats. So think of a question and post. All right, good stuff. All right. And I guess tonight, as a Uber Eats driver, you're probably quite busy, because people are probably, well, Friday night in general. Friday's kind of like the cheat day for a lot of people, where, hey, I'm going to order out. Whether you're on a diet plan or not, people justify, hey, I'm Friday, the weekend, it's cheat day, let's order out. But especially today, where it is Valentine's Day. And quite honestly, if I was going out on a date, now my Valentine is up there making a lovely pasta dinner for us for supper, so I'll be enjoying that afterwards. But I remember back in our courtship days, when we used to go out, celebrate all these Valentine's Day celebrations. I used to actually hate going out on Valentine's Day, because the restaurants were so freaking busy, and you couldn't enjoy yourself. Like, it was just crowded in. Everyone's squatting in there like sardines. Whereas if you went on a normal day, you could enjoy better service, less crowd, didn't have as long a wait time for your meal. So very often, once we got past that initial courtship phase, if we wanted to celebrate Valentine's Day, let's do it the day before, let's do it the day after. I mean, it's still quality time together, but let's do so and actually enjoy the evening, instead of being, squat in there amongst a overcrowded restaurant and slow service for the food. So I'm not a big fan of going out on busy nights like that. That also applies with like New Year's celebrations. Like, I was never a fan of that either. Like, you go out on New Year's and everything is twice the price and way crowded, and it's just, I don't enjoy that. I'd rather go out on a normal night, if you will, and enjoy a normal situation in that sense. All right, who else we got joining in here? Let's see. We have Thomas is asking, can you speak on joint supplements you have or have not had success with over the years, please and thanks? All right, that's a great question. We'll certainly jump into that one. I just want to see if any other questions or comments there. Make sure this is coming through. And again, for those of you joining in, feel free to type in any questions and topics of discussion that you have related to health and fitness, and we'll take it away. All right. All right, so first off, the Thomas's question about joint supplements. I have experimented with different joint supplements over the years. And I still do in a way. Like some of the supplements I take are from a joint health perspective point of view. Some that I find very helpful, and it's not just joint health, but for a lot of health benefits, omega-3s. Omega-3 fatty acids, usually in the form of a high-potency fish oil supplement. That's my primary source of omega-3s. That's really good for joint health. It's good for reducing inflammation. It's just good for overall health and wellness in general. It's an essential fatty acid that our body needs, and most of us are not getting enough of that through our natural diet. In fact, unless you're purposely going out of your way to eat like wild caught fish, like salmon and sardines and mackerel and things like that, unless you're eating that stuff on a regular basis and going out of your way to consume omega-3s, chances are you're not getting enough. And I know in my situation, even though I do have, fatty fish from time to time, I will incorporate like plant-based sources of omega-3s, like walnuts is a good source, chia seeds is a good source. I don't eat enough of it from my natural diet to meet the intake that I need for omega-3s. So I will supplement with a high-potency fish oil supplement, and I find that makes a big difference. So that's good for joint health. Another one that I find helpful as well, collagen powder. You can buy this. It's basically like collagen protein powder is what it is, but it's specifically good for the joints, connective tissue, skin, cartilage, that kind of stuff. So, I mean, collagen is very helpful. I've been using it for several years now, and maybe it's kind of coincidence, but I've found that since I've been taking collagen and taking the omega-3s and that on a regular basis, I haven't had the nagging joint pain that I've had. Now, I'll be totally transparent. It's probably not all due to just supplements. It's probably due to smarter training as well, right? That makes a big difference. And also being lighter, because I've lost some weight over, in my 40s. I've purposely trimmed down and have kept my weight down to like in that 200-pound or sub 200 range. Like for me, 190 to 200 pounds, that's where I tend to bounce around back and forth. And I find that has made a huge difference for joint health as well, because when I was heavier, like at my heaviest, I was 240 plus at my peak. That's a lot of extra weight on your joints. Now, even though, I was strong at that weight and everything else, it's still a lot of weight to carry around, still a lot of extra weight bearing on your joints. So I think that may play a role as well, especially when it comes to knees and ankles and hips and lower back and things like that. So keeping the weight in check certainly helps as well. Another supplement that I take that's good for reducing inflammation and I think can help with joint pain is turmeric. I buy the turmeric extract, and that's another one that I use on a regular basis. Those are the joint specific supplements that I found to be helpful. I have tried other ones in the past. Like I used to take glucosamine and chondroitin. Not saying that I had any problem with it, but at the same time, I can't really say that I noticed any great benefit from it. Right. So I basically swapped that out for what I'm taking now, and I find that it's been much better. So those are the key supplements that I find help. And the big one, I think, is looking at it from the big picture perspective and realizing this is just supplements, right? Like it's not going to cancel out poor diet. It's not going to cancel out poor lifestyle. It's not going to cancel out being overweight. Like it's not going to cancel out all these other things. But if you do it in combination, it can have a noticeable impact. Like if you get your weight in check, that's going to make a big difference. If you start, eating healthier in general, that's going to make a big difference. You start exercising and moving the body and doing so, training smarter, not just simply placing stress on the joints, tendons, and ligaments, but you train smarter. That's going to have a big impact on joint pain. So I think it's a combination of all these things stacked together. But this is something that like we could go on and on. Like I could do a whole podcast episode talking about joints, because it is a big issue. And you know what? Maybe in the future I will, because it is a popular topic and something that I would love to really go deep and unpack. Probably get in some special guests, and we could do a deep dive into with a future podcast. All right, who else we got joining in? We have Zonic 484. Zion Ick, I guess that's how I pronounce it. Anyway, says, Lee, good to see you again. When trying to increase the U shape for pecs, so you suggest starting with flies. I'm lean but lack the curve. When trying to increase the U shape for pecs, you mean like the square shaped pec? I'm just going to say it right out front. You can't really change the shape of your muscle. All right, the shape of your muscle is based on your genetics. Some people are going to have nice square shaped pecs. Some people are going to have a gap in their pecs. Like everyone's pecs are going to have a different shape. Like just Google search like most muscular photos or something like that, or search for bodybuilders and just look at the chest development of different bodybuilders. Everyone's like, there's going to be some similarities, but everyone's going to have like the unique structure and shape to their body. And this just doesn't apply to pecs; it applies to every body part. And you can't really change the shape of your muscle. So like saying, hey, I want to build square shaped pecs. Well, if you genetically have the structure to build square shaped pecs, then you will develop it. But if you don't have that structure, then you're really not going to build it. All you can do to change the shape of a muscle is build it bigger and lose the fat that's covering it. That's it. Like the rest is just up to genetics, and you got to play the hand that you're dealt, right? You really can't change it. I see this a lot. Like people say, well, how do I build bigger bicep peak, or how do I build this, or how do I build that, or how do you can build the muscle bigger and you can prioritize different aspects of the muscle, but you can't really change the shape in terms of how it inserts to the body. Like that depends on just the natural insertions and your ligaments and tendons and how the muscles intersect. Like that's just unique for everybody. So as far as the workout itself, I mean, if you want to just maximize muscle growth in the chest, I always like to do positions of flexion style of training if I'm really focusing on hypertrophy. So that's mid-range, fully stretched, peak contraction. I like that structure, especially when you're trying to maximize growth. So mid-range is like a big compound exercise, some sort of bench press or chest press variation. Fully stretched is going to be something like a dumbbell fly, where you get that full extension, that full stretch in the bottom range of motion. And then a peak contraction is going to be something like a pec deck or a cable crossover fly, where you really have to fight to hold those handles together and hold that peak contraction at the top. So that would be an example of a chest workout using positions of flexion. And then you can target different areas depending on, like if you want to focus more on the upper chest, which is generally it's a weak area for a lot of people. The upper chest areas, there's not as much mass for most guys. A lot of bodybuilders like to prioritize the upper chest. So you can actually do more incline bench work to just place more of the emphasis on the upper chest. Now, with that being said, anytime you do a chest press or a fly or whatever, the entire chest is going to contract, but you can place a little more emphasis on the upper portion or the lower portion or the overall, depending on where you angle the bench. An incline, going to place a little bit more emphasis on the upper chest. A decline, going to place a little bit more emphasis on the lower chest. The flat's kind of like the overall, but again, the entire chest will contract regardless. Like even if you never did an incline bench and you just did flat bench, your upper pec and lower pec are still contracting, but you can place more of the emphasis in the upper chest area if you do an incline. And that's what a lot of more advanced bodybuilders tend to do, because they want to have that thick upper chest area. But hopefully that answers your question there, right? Because I just want to say, like, you can't really change the shape. All you can do is build the muscle bigger and lose the fat that's covering it, and then let your natural genetic shape show through. We got John joining in. Welcome, John. Glad to have you joining us. We have Roger joining in. Hello, Lee. Hope you enjoy your Valentine's Day. Hoping to join the coaching call on Sunday. Yeah, awesome. Looking forward to it. And Roger is a member of our Muscle After 40 VIP group. And that's one of the things that we do is we have a group Zoom call within our Muscle After 40 VIP group. And the cool thing about the Zoom calls is it's a small group and it's an interactive conversation. So instead of me being the one-sided talking head, we're all in the group together and we can all interact and chat together in real time. So if you want to come on board and become part of the VIP Muscle After 40 program and like to join into our group Zoom calls and get some more specific and personalized training and nutrition specific to you and your goals, then feel free to reach out to me and we can set up a time to chat and see if you'd be a good fit to come on board with our VIP program. But Roger's a part of it and he's going to be joining us on Sunday. Thunderlord, is too much muscle possible? Yeah, absolutely. I totally believe too much muscle is possible. And what's too much all depends. Like, if we're talking to a Mr. Olympia competitor, is too much muscle possible? I'm sure everybody probably has their upper limit, but the upper limit for someone who is a pro bodybuilder is going to be way higher than the upper limit for someone who's an average weekend warrior gym rat, which is probably going to be much higher than maybe like an endurance athlete or someone who is in more of a weight conscious sport, if you will. It depends on what it is you're training for, your specific fitness goals. But yeah, absolutely, you can build too much muscle depending on the situation. Like even in the case of just bodybuilding for the pure sake of bodybuilding, like once it can get to the point where it's almost absurd, like the size of the muscle. And we're kind of getting there now with some people. Like they're just so massive, even though it's lean muscle mass massive, they still have a lot of the same hindrances and challenges as someone who's obese would have. Like you get bodybuilders who are so big, like they can't fit into a regular size seat on an airplane. They can't do things that normal people can do. Like they can't go hiking or skiing or cycling or rock climbing or whatever, skydiving or stuff, horseback riding or something. Like they can't do regular things that a lot of people would probably do because they're just so big. Especially when you see some guys like not just bodybuilders, but if you want to see like the true mass monsters of the world, like strongman competitors, they're like bodybuilders compared to mere mortals are huge. Strongman competitors compared to bodybuilders are like on another level huge. Like when you're getting guys who are like well over 6 feet tall and 400 pounds of body weight, like that's giant level. Like that's just massive. And to me, that's a hindrance. I mean, I would not want to be that big, right? No way. That's too much in my opinion. But again, it all depends on the individual, right? I mean, obviously some people bust their ass to get to that level and that's their goal in life. But for me, I believe that is too much muscle. It's too much muscle in my opinion, right? But again, it's like the old saying, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I guess muscle is in the eye of the beholder. What's too much for one person may be not enough for someone else. All right, we have Big Boss joining in. Hello, how's it going? We've got Jason joining in as well. Welcome, Jason. Dosage for EPA, DHA. All right, so that's the omega-3 fatty acids, which are basically EPA and DHA, which are acronyms for big, long words. You can Google search them if you want. But the dosage, I'll tell you what I do. I get the super concentrate fish oil supplements. I personally get them from Costco. And they are, I'll just look it up. I can't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head. Super concentrate fish oil from Costco, I believe. Yeah, Kirkland's brand, signature super concentrate fish oil. I'll just bring it up there. In fact, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll share my screen so you can see the one I'm referring to here now. Share my screen. Just give me a second now. It takes me a second to share the screen. Share the screen. All right. Is that coming through on your end? Let's see. I'm going to move your question there. All right. So this is the one that I use. Again, the omega-3 fish oil. It's quite a chunky capsule. It's 1,300 milligrams per capsule, 450 milligrams of EPA, 300 milligrams of DHA. And I will take at least 4 of those a day. Like I usually take 2 in the morning and 2 in the evening. That's kind of standard for me, right? That's what I personally take. Now, when it comes to fish oil, like some people, you'll get mixed reviews. Like some people, there was a school of thought years ago where people were going crazy with fish oil, like popping them by the handfuls, thinking that more is better. And I think, there's a point of diminishing returns. But for me, I take 2 in the morning, 2 in the evening, and that's a normal day. Now, if my evening meal, for example, contains salmon or mackerel or something along those lines where I'm getting a lot of natural fish oil, I'll probably skip the omega-3s that day because it's kind of counterintuitive. I mean, I just consumed a good serving through natural food, and I'll take that instead. But I use it as a supplement. So on the days that I know I'm not getting enough omega-3s through my diet, then I'll make sure to supplement with this. But that's the one that I use personally, and that is the dosages. Again, you can look it up for yourself. It's the super concentrate omega-3 fish oil. That's the one that I use. I mean, I'm not saying that is the best one, but it is a good one. And what you want to look for when you are choosing a fish oil supplement, make sure that it has at least 50% omega-3 fatty acids, which are the EPA and the DHA fatty acids that you mentioned there. What you want to be careful of is ones that are very low dose in EPA and DHA compared to the total grams of the capsule. Because what that means is it's a little tiny bit of the actual omega-3 fatty acids, and the bulk of it is just garbage fat. Like it's just a low quality oil thrown in there. And sometimes what they'll do is they'll mislead the label. Like you got to get good at reading labels, because they'll say, hey, this is 1,000 milligram capsule, but it only contains 100 milligrams of omega-3s. So 100 milligrams of actual good stuff, and then 900 milligrams of just junk fat. That's not actually helping. So you want to be careful of that. Make sure that you're getting at least 50% or more actual essential fatty acids, the omega-3 fatty acids. That's what you want to look for. Right? And those are the key numbers. Jeffrey's got a question. Why do a lot of YouTubers keep claiming that they can get you shredded in 90 days? I don't see someone more than 25 pounds overweight could get shredded in 90 days. The simple, dirty answer is because that's what people want, and that's what sells, right? Like they throw that out there. Hey, I'll get you shredded in 90 days. And sometimes 90 days is even generous. Like you get people saying, hey, like sign up for a 6-week shred or a 30-day shred or whatever. Like they even slash it down even lower. But the reason why people do that is because that's what sells. Bottom line. I mean, we're kind of conditioned to that thing. And a lot of people think, well, 90 days, it's only 3 months. Yeah. And people sign up for it. But the truth of the matter is, unless you're already in damn good shape now, you're not going to get shredded in 90 days. Like, in order for someone to get shredded in 90 days, you should have visible abs now. Like, so if you're before picture, like you got a 4-pack, okay, yeah, you could probably get your 6-pack in 90 days. But if your before picture is a roll and love handles and moobs, you ain't getting no 6-pack in 90 days. Sorry to burst your bubble. It ain't going to happen, right? It's going to take a lot longer than that. And I like to take a longer picture perspective when it comes to fat loss, because if you can do it in a slower, more sustainable, and more enjoyable way, the likelihood of you actually keeping that going long term is much higher than if you go on some extreme cut for the short term. And this is the biggest problem. And I'm guilty of this myself, because back in the day when I was competing in bodybuilding, I used to go on these extreme 90-day shreds and cuts, like, because that's what was preached in the magazines. Like, it's not just in the YouTube days. Like, this was preached for years and years and years. The whole idea of doing a 12-week contest cutting diet, like that was a very common thing, back in the old days of bodybuilding. And the problem with it is, okay, yeah, sure, if you starve yourself and you kill it, like you go slash your carbs, you're eating nothing but boiled chicken and broccoli, you're doing 2 hours of cardio a day, you're in the gym 6 days a week, busting your ass, burning the candle at both ends, you might be able to pull it off. Like, you might be able to create such a massive calorie deficit that you get lean in the matter of a few months. But the problem is if it's so extreme, you're going to be mentally and physically burnt out. And the temptation to cheat, the temptation to binge becomes higher and higher and higher. And the way it was for me is every time I did a contest and I basically just suffered through, relied on grit and willpower to get me through the contest prep. But as soon as that contest was over, then it's just like, okay, where's the all-you-can-eat buffet? Where's the ice cream shop? Where's the bakery? Where's the pizza place? Like, I'm just going to, the diet is over. I don't give a shit anymore. I just want to eat. And I would just go binge eat. And the crazy thing is, it took months of dieting to lose that weight, only a few weeks of binge eating to gain it all back. And then I'd be back to square one, fatter than ever, and then trying to justify it by telling everybody, well, I'm bulking up now because it's the off season, right? Trying to save face here because people would see me after the contest and I'm like, what the hell happened to you? Like, here you are looking like a big old puffy Michelin man. And I say, well, I'm bulking up, right? I'm trying, macho and save face. Reality was I wasn't bulking up. I was just being a pig and couldn't control my appetite because I was so deprived after months of extreme cutting. You go the complete polar opposite. Whereas now I want to take a slower, more sustainable approach because you can keep it going. And that's the key is like, can you keep this going? Don't think of like a 90-day diet or any short-term diet. Think of it as a lifestyle. Like, is this something you can do for the rest of your life? And if it's not, then the results are only temporary. So that's another pet peeve of mine when I see people say, well, I'm going to go keto. I'm going to go carnivore. I'm going to go fasting. I'm going to do a detox. I'm going to go whatever, and think that I'm going to starve the weight off in a few weeks or a few months. And then once I starve it all off, or I'm going to go on Ozempic or whatever variations, these semaglutides. And once I starve all the weight off, then I'm going to go back to normal and live happily ever after. No, because as soon as you go back to your normal, your physique is going to return to normal, which is fat and overweight. So you have to change the lifestyle. You have to change the root cause, which is causing you to get fat in the first place. And that requires a more sustainable long-term approach and not just a short-term going on a diet approach. And this is what we do differently within the Muscle After 40 program. And a lot of the guys who've gone through it, like, it's this aha, eye-opening moment because we're taking them through a journey. And I mean, the program duration to go through the full thing it takes a year. Like, it's not just a 90 days or 6 weeks or whatever. It's a year-long program, and everything is laid out for you literally day by day for an entire year. We're going to reprogram your subconscious with new exercise, eating, and lifestyle habits so that you not only get in shape, but then you stay in shape. And then this is done. This is like the new you, the new version of you. And there's no going back to the old fat out of shape version of you. And it's been a game changer for so many people who've gone through it. I mean, it's been a game changer for me. And that's why I'm such a huge advocate of this. But that's the system that I followed now to keep my weight sub 200 pounds for going on 7 years now, which when I was bodybuilding and going on these cuts and, starvation cut and then binge eat afterwards, I could never keep my weight under 200 pounds for more than a few months at a time before I binge eat and regain it all back again. So this sustainable lifestyle approach has allowed me to get in shape, stay in shape, and do so without feeling like I'm suffering it out on a diet. And that's been such a liberating feeling. But that's the main reason, Jeffrey, why a lot of guys who they claim that, hey, we can get you shredded quick, the whole get ripped quick type of thing. It's almost like a get rich quick. I mean, we know if someone said, hey, you're going to be a millionaire in the next 90 days, chances are you'd look at them and say you're full of shit, right? Unless you're already a millionaire or you're already got a business in place. Like, okay, you've got $990,000 of net worth now. Yeah, we could probably get you to a millionaire in 90 days. All right. If you have that as your starting point. But if you're starting from broke, from scratch, you ain't going to be a millionaire in 90 days. All right. Same with this. Like, if you're starting from brand new, beginner, newbie, nobody's getting you shredded in 90 days. It ain't happening. Right. But can you do it over the course of, a year, or in some cases, even maybe several years, depending on your situation? Yeah, if you give yourself enough time, we can make that transformation happen. But don't fall for the get ripped quick scheme, just the same as you wouldn't fall for a get rich quick scheme. Anyway, what else we got there? CECC Vet. Hey, Lee, I've been diagnosed with a type of arrhythmia. It's not quite AFib. It's in the spectrum of SVT, and I'm on beta blockers. But my question is, do I have to stop lifting heavy and train lighter? That really depends on your doctor's advice. All right. I'm not going to try and give medical advice because I'm not a doctor and I'm not a heart specialist. Don't even pretend to be one on YouTube. Right. Follow your doctor's advice on that one and see if they recommend you to exercise and what type of exercise you can do. I will say this, however, again, this is not medical advice. This is just anecdotal storytelling. I know people who have had heart disease, who have had heart attacks, who have had cardiac events, who have come back and are now training and lifting and pushing themselves hard in the gym. I like several of my coaching students have had heart issues and are now still back on board. Some of them have had heart surgeries and things like that, and now they're back to training. But again, they followed their doctor's advice. They progressed, at their own pace. Because I mean, everybody's situation is unique and different, and I don't want someone to jump in doing too much too soon and cause further damage. But you may be able to get back to training heavy again, but that's something you're going to have to discuss with your doctor, right? It's an individual situation, and I'm not going to try and paint everybody with the same brush and say, oh yeah, everybody, doesn't matter what your medical condition, everybody can train heavy. No, right? Everyone's unique. So the best advice I can give you is talk to your doctor on that and follow their suggestions. All right, what else we got there? Jose's got a question. Says, I've been taking liquid turmeric and collagen from Costco, and I feel it had helped with joint pain, but not 100%. I also drink clove tea for inflammation. Interesting. I've never tried clove tea myself. And I agree with what you're saying. Supplements can help. Now, is it a surefire, like, hey, you're guaranteed to have no pain if you take this? No, it's not. I don't think there is any surefire solution like that, right? But it certainly can help, right? And that's what I have found myself. All right, what else we got there? Another question from earlier. I'm not trying to literally change the shape, but I'm saying the outer lower chest is lacking. So more droop than curve square shape. If the outer lower chest is lacking, there's probably some excess body fat there, right? Like that's when people have excess chest fat, it usually causes it to droop, causes it to, if it's lacking, that's probably what it is. It's probably body fat. It's unlikely that you have droopy pecs from lean muscle mass. So quite honestly, if you lose some body fat, you'll probably improve the overall shape and the tightness and the definition of your chest. And this is tricky because a lot of people, they look at themselves and say, well, I'm not fat. I mean, okay, yeah, by normal people standards, no, you're not fat. But when you're comparing yourself to fitness models and bodybuilders and people at that level, like pictures don't often do justice. And like we have a skewed mental view of how lean we think we are compared to how lean, some of the top athletes are. And it really becomes apparent when you see these people in person, especially when you see them in peak shape in person. Like I know in the past, like when I've went to like the Mr. Olympia competition or the Arnold Classic, or even just top level national level shows and seeing like top level bodybuilders and fitness models and stuff. And when you see these people up close, it's like, holy shit. Like even when you're watching them on stage and you're in the audience, you can't appreciate it. But when you see them up close and realize just how lean they actually are, it's like, it's another level. And again, pictures and videos and stuff that you see on the internet doesn't really do justice, because a lot of times people see a picture of someone and then they look at themselves in the mirror and say, well, hey, I'm pretty close. It's not that far off. I look kind of lean like they do. But then when you actually see that person up close and in person, it's like, okay, they're at another level, right? When you can see, like, to put it in perspective, the skin on their waistline is like the skin on the back of your hand. Like it's just nothing is there. right? The term they use in bodybuilding, to measure if someone's in shape or not. A lot of guys, they say, they're striving to have dick skin. Like the skin on your midsection wants to be as thin as the skin on your, what, right? They're like virtually zero fat. That's what the elite level guys pretty much have when they're stepping on stage. It's like there is no excess fat. It's not like there's a little there. There's none there. Like they see crisscross striations, and that's the kind of definition that a lot of people, when they see well-defined muscle mass, that's what they're looking at. So, if you have some sagging and some drooping, then chances are you got some fat to lose as well. Now, I mean, and another thing it could be too, if you've lost a lot of body fat and now you might have some loose skin, right? That's another thing that could be an issue. I've seen that with some of my coaching students and with just people that I follow on social media and stuff. Sometimes when people lose a lot of body fat, and I'm talking like maybe 100+ pounds of fat, and now they have the loose skin. So their skin could still be very thin, but if the skin is saggy and loose, then it might cause that droopiness and not really reveal the muscle definition to the same as someone who had tight skin. So that's another thing to factor in, right? Now, again, I'm not saying that that's your situation or not. I mean, without seeing pictures of you, I can't tell for sure, but I'm just giving some scenarios here, right? Where else was I? I lost my place there in the chat. John's joining in and says, can you train with under the belly on the left hernia? Can you train with under the belly on the left hernia? Can you train with a hernia? That's what you're asking. It depends. I know a lot of guys who have had hernias and still train. I mean, one thing I will acknowledge with a hernia, I mean, first off, I wrote a blog post about hernias that I would recommend you check out. If you do a Google search for Lee Hayward hernia, you should pop up there in the search. But I'll just get the link for you so you can check it out. Where is it to? I'm actually just going to do that myself now. I just typed in Google Lee Hayward hernia and it comes up there. How to prevent getting a hernia when lifting weights. Now, that's tips to prevent it, but if you already have it, I mean, it discusses more information about hernias and the different types and yada, yada, yada. But I recommend you check that out. I'm going to type that into our chat window there so you can check it out after. But can you lift weights with a hernia? It depends. If it's mild, minor, yes, you can still train. You can still exert yourself to a degree. But the thing with hernias is they're not going to get better on their own. All right. So if you have it, it's best to talk to your doctor and plan getting it fixed. Like you get it surgically fixed where they actually like put a mesh over it to poke the intestine back in and then put a mesh there and surgically stitch you up so that it doesn't pop through, right? You should get that done because hernias are not one of these things. Oh, I'll leave it alone and hopefully it gets better. No, if you have a hernia, that's there and it's only going to continue to get worse. So the only way to fix it is to get it fixed up surgically. So if you have it, start talking to your doctor, plan it out, how you're going to get this taken care of. That's what I would recommend. And sooner the better, right? Because it's not getting better on its own, and it's just going to continue to get worse. But in the meantime, can you still train with it? A lot of guys do, right? I mean, I know people personally who have had hernias and still train, still push themselves in the gym and still do physical work and all that. But at the same time, it's talk to your doctor about this, right? I'm not going to, and again, this isn't medical advice. This is just sharing stories from people I know. I mean, knock on wood, I've never had a hernia myself, so I'm not speaking from personal experience, but I know people who have had them, and they definitely need to get them checked out by their doctor and ultimately get them fixed. But you should still be able to train, but I would follow the tips that I mentioned in that blog post there as well, right? I wouldn't be doing anything crazy heavy if I had a hernia. I can tell you that now. I would be doing lighter weights, submaximal, not pushing to failure, not exerting myself to 100%. I would kind of be doing active recovery type training until I got that thing fixed. If I was in that situation, that's what I would do. Right? I wouldn't want to make it worse. All right, what else we got there? We have Mr. Buff Canuck. Thank you so much for the support. It says, what would you recommend to warm up before a workout? Can I do burpees and jumping jacks before a workout? Uh, you can, but what I would recommend is start off small and build up. So burpees and jumping jacks, again, depending on your level of conditioning, may be an intense exercise, right? Especially burpees. Jumping jacks, if you're in decent shape, probably not so much. But I would recommend, this is my warm-up, and this is, I would suggest doing the same thing yourself. Just some general light exercise, especially if it's cold out, like wintertime, sub-zero temperatures. If the gym is cold, it's cold outside, you definitely want to elevate your core temperature before you start doing any exertion. So for me, when I go into the gym, the first thing I do is I go over on the treadmill or some sort of cardio. It could be an elliptical or a rower or something, and I'll do 5 to 10 minutes. More if it's cold. Like if I'm feeling physically cold, it's cold in the gym, it's cold outside, I'll probably do at least 10 minutes. If I'm already feeling pretty warm, summertime, that type of thing, I might only do 5. But I always get some sort of low intensity cardio just to elevate my core temperature, get the blood circulating. Then I'll do some specific mobility work for the body parts that I'm going to train. So things like arm circles, neck rotations, trunk twists, rotator cuff rotations, deep knee bends, things like that, just to warm up the body as a whole. And then what I do is whatever exercise I'm doing, I'll always start with light warm-ups, and then do progressively heavier warm-ups up to my working weight. Even if it's not a max effort, I'll always go through that pattern, like very lightweight, and then progressively heavier warm-ups, as many warm-ups as I feel I need to get up to my top working weight that I'm going to lift. And I repeat that sequence for every exercise. So I never just jump to my top working weight. I'll always do a light warm-up weight. And sure, it's going to add some extra time to your workout and everything else, but it's time well invested, because if that can help prevent an injury, that's worth it exponentially down the road. Because if you skip the warm-up thinking, I'm going to save some time and whatever, yeah, you might get away with it. You might get away with it for weeks or months or maybe even years. But if you get injured, like you pull something, tear something, snap your shit up, as they say, if you hurt yourself, then that's going to set you back. And the problem is that could set you back seriously. I mean, in some cases, it might be just a minor injury that can heal up within the matter of a few weeks or a few months. In some other cases, it might be a more serious injury that could leave you laid up for a year or more, or in some cases, it may never fully recover, right? So you don't want to be in those situations. So that's the key with the warm-up, right? You really want to make sure that you're preventing injury. That's the key. Now, as far as burpees and jumping jacks, if you wanted to do those, I would do them after you did the cardio warm-up, after you did the mobility work, again, the arm circles, rotator cuff rotations, deep knee bends, all that kind of stuff. Then, hey, if you want to throw in some burpees and jumping jacks, go for it, right? That's fine. You can do them then. But I wouldn't do it cold, personally. I would warm up before doing the burpees and the jumping jacks, right? I build myself up gradually. Another thing I'm going to mention as well, the older you get, the more you need to warm up, all right? You see this a lot, like young guys, and I'm guilty of this myself, right? When I was younger, I would just sometimes go into the gym and just start working out, and you could very often get away with it because as a young person in your teens or in your 20s, it's like you got rubber bones and everything is just loose and pliable and forgiving. Like nothing hurts. Like you could fall down and you bounce back up again, right? Like it's like you're made of rubber. You don't get hurt. The older you get, the stiffer and the more injury prone you get as well. So I found that the older guys who are listening to this, you definitely don't want to skip those warm-ups, right? Younger guys, you still want to do it, but you may be able to do a lighter version of that warm-up, if you will, or a shorter version, and still be able to function and get away with it. But yeah, you definitely don't want to skip those. Of all the things of the workout, I'm going to say the warm-up is the most important, right? Because that's what's going to help prevent injury. And as I've mentioned numerous times before, injury prevention is the key. All right, where else are we to now? I lost my place again in the chat, but I'll pick it up where we left off. We have DMA. Lee, currently developed elbow tendonitis, avoiding movements that bend the elbows. Any suggestions for bicep workout, or do I need to skip curls for the meantime? Dennis, 67 years old, from the Philippines. All right, well, glad to have you joining in, Dennis. You don't necessarily have to stop curling or anything that bends the elbows, but you want to be careful and choose different movement variations that allow you to exercise without aggravating the tendonitis. Now, it depends on the type of tendonitis. I'm just going to hide your question there so I can talk about this. We have on the inside right here, that's usually referred to as golfer's elbow tendonitis here. On the outside here, that's usually referred to as tennis elbow tendonitis there. So it depends. In the one that's probably going to affect the curling the most is the one on the inside. Now, even though it may affect it on the outside as well, but I know if I get that golfer's elbow, the tendonitis on the inside, that usually hurts a lot when curling, right? So that's where I find it the most. But again, you may feel the pain with either one of those variations, but you want to just see what you can do to work around it. So, for example, you might not be able to do a barbell curl. You might not be able to do regular dumbbell curls, but you may be able to get away with hammer curls. And this is something that I do personally. So instead of curling with the palms facing up, like a regular curl, I will curl with the thumbs facing up in a hammer curl. And I find by just twisting it, so instead of having palm up, I have thumbs up, that changes the tendon stress and allows me to do a curl variation without aggravating my elbow tendonitis. So if I got elbow tendonitis flare-ups, that's one of the variations I'll do, is I'll do hammer curls instead of regular curls. I find it helps a lot. You could also play around with machines. You know, if you have depending on what you have available at your gym, like if you have a bicep curl machine or cable curls or something like that, you may be able to do cables and machine exercises and not aggravate that tendonitis, because the machine is going to stabilize and balance the weight for you. You just basically have to pull or push against resistance. So sometimes when working around injuries and aches and pains, machines can be helpful for that. So I would experiment and just see. Now, not all machines will work this way. Like if you're doing a machine press or a curl or whatever and it hurts, don't do it. Either just skip that movement or find another variation instead. But you probably will find that you can work around it. Other things as well, resistance bands. Sometimes doing the similar movement with a resistance band is easier on the joints and tendons than doing the same movement with free weights. So that's another variation that you can try as well. And the same thing applies. You can try the different hand positions. Like if you can't do a resistance band curl with the palms up, try grabbing the band with the thumbs up in that hammer curl position. That might allow you to work around it as well. And other exercises, it's not just the actual curling for the biceps, but the rowing and the pull downs and things of that nature. Like that's going to aggravate it as well. So you may have to experiment with different hand positions or different grips for your pull downs and your rows. What I often find, using a neutral grip, that parallel grip, very often alleviates some of that tendonitis. So for your lat pull downs, if you can get a V bar or a bar with parallel grip versus the straight overhand grip, the neutral grip very often is more comfortable. Same with seated rows. If you can use a neutral grip, like getting a handle or an attachment that offers that versus a straight barbell, that might be more comfortable. What else can I suggest there? Bottom line, you really have to play around with it and just see what you can and cannot do. Now, if in doubt, leave it out. Like if you've tried a bunch of different variations and say, you know what, they all hurt, then maybe you just got to, just suck it up and avoid doing those movements for the time being and let it heal up. Other things that help as well when it comes to tendonitis, it's kind of a Band-Aid solution, but it does work. Getting some elbow sleeves, like some compression sleeves that you can put on, or elbow wraps, that can help. Go on Amazon and just do a search for like elbow sleeves or compression wraps, things like that. And they can make a noticeable difference. It does two things. One, it provides some light support for the joints, tendons, and ligaments, but it also helps to keep the joint warm. And when the joints are warm, that prevents injury, and it just helps to increase blood flow and circulation. So that's another thing. Like when you're dealing with pain in the joints, don't go in there with if my elbows were hurting, I wouldn't go train with a t-shirt or a tank top on. I would have a sweatshirt on and keep them covered, because more heat keeps the joints warm, increases blood flow and circulation, less likely to aggravate those injuries. All right, so you want to keep the joints warm. Now, you're over in the Philippines. I don't know how hot it is this time of year. I mean, if it's scorching and, like, the sweat's dripping off you in the gym, then that's probably not going to be a big issue. But where I'm to, in Canada, in the middle of winter, it's freezing. All right. So I always do my best to stay warm, because a cold muscle is not a happy muscle. Right? You're more likely to pull or tear a cold muscle than you are a warm one. So I always go out of my way to stay warm, especially when I'm training in the wintertime. But again, hopefully that can help you with that, and give you some relief, or at least allow you to work around it while it heals up. All right. Who else? We got Neil joining in as well. Says, what would be your strategies in shortening time in the gym while still making it effective? Want to know, because I'm kind of busy lately. All right, great question. There's different ways of going about this, and one that you can do, and I want you to look at things from a bigger picture perspective. Things that you can do at home would go a long way in possibly saving some time, or things that you can do outside the gym. So I'll give you an example. Like, some people go to the gym and they do a full warm up, they do a full weight training workout, and then they probably do some stretching and mobility work, and then they probably do some post workout cardio. That could be a 2-hour workout easy, if you're doing all that in a single gym session. So think of, like, what can you do outside the gym, or like at home, or in your spare time, or just kind of fit it in throughout the day? And then what is the essential things that you can only do at the gym? And then probably prioritize the things that have to be done at the gym. So I'll give you an example. Like, if I was pressed for time, I wouldn't be doing cardio at the gym. I would do that throughout the day. Like, for example, like if you want to get in some extra activity, like go for a little walk on your lunch break, go for a walk in the morning, go for a walk after work or after dinner. Like, walking is great because you can kind of squeeze it in little blocks of time you have throughout the day. Like, for example, maybe I don't have time to go do a full-on cardio session at the gym, but hey, you know what? I got 15 minutes before my next appointment. I can go do a little walk around the block, get in a little bit of activity that way. So I'd be looking at opportunities where you can squeeze in exercise throughout the day without taking up large chunks of time. That's one thing. Also, when it comes to stretching and mobility work, like, you can do a lot of that stuff at home, right? You don't need to be at the gym to do that kind of stuff. Even with your warm-ups, like, that what I mentioned earlier about doing a warm-up beforehand, you might be able to do that at home. Like, a lot of the things like arm circles and our rotator cuff rotations and deep knee bends and all that kind of stuff. Like, you can probably do those exercises at home to get your warm-up in before you actually go to the gym, right? So that's another option that you might want to look into as well. Like, where can you be more efficient? And then when it comes to the workouts themselves, one strategy that I find for saving time is doing alternate sets. It's kind of like a superset, but it's a different variation where a superset, a lot of times people are pairing up 2 exercises for the same muscle. So a bench press and a pec deck fly, or a dumbbell curl and a barbell curl, or a squat and a leg extension. That's very often what people do with supersets. Alternate sets is you're literally alternating muscle groups. So a bicep curl and a tricep extension, a leg extension and a leg curl, a chest press and a back row, pull down and a shoulder press, like working opposing movement patterns, opposing muscle groups. That's a great way to squeeze in more work in a shorter unit of time, because while one body part is resting, the other one is working, and you can kind of pair them closer together. Now, you'll still need to take a little rest in between sets to just catch your breath, but it won't need to be as big of a gap as if you were training the same muscle with straight sets. So, for example, you do a set of bicep curls, take a little 30-second rest break, then go do a set of tricep extensions, take a 30-second rest break, and just alternate biceps, triceps, biceps, triceps. You'll be able to get your bicep and tricep work in less total time than if you did all straight sets of biceps and then all straight sets of triceps. So this alternate set fashion is a great way to save time. The only drawback is you have to be able to take up a couple pieces of equipment at the same time. So if you're in a gym, like ideally a home gym would be great because you're in control of what you do there. But in a commercial gym, obviously try to train at non-peak times where you could take up a couple machines, like you could use the leg extension and the leg curls in an alternate set fashion. Right? If you're in a gym that's blocked, packed full of people, and like as soon as you step up from the machine, someone else is grabbing it, it's probably not going to work. All right. So you use your own discretion on that one. But that's something that I like to do myself. I like to do alternate sets. I find it just more enjoyable, but it also saves time. So that's another thing you can do. What else? Even just focusing on the big compound exercises and trying to do exercises that are going to give you the best bang for your buck. That's another one. So instead of doing a lot of fluff exercises, focus on the big ones, like your presses, your rows, your squats, your deadlifts, your shoulder presses, your pull-ups, your dips, like things that are going to give you the most bang for your buck. And then some of the smaller isolation stuff, if you're pressed for time, like I'm not saying that stuff's not important, but give it less emphasis, right? Save that for when you do have some extra time. You probably do some more of that isolation work. But when you're pressed for time, focus on what's going to give you the best bang for your buck. Like think of it like the 80-20 rule. What are the 20% exercises that are going to give you 80% of the results? Focus on those versus the other way around. Like what are the little nitpicky exercises that are going to take up a lot of time but only give me 20% results, right? We want to avoid those when you're pressed for time. But I think if you implement those strategies, and also the obvious ones, don't go scrolling through your phone, don't go engaging in mindless chit chat, right? Just go in there like a man on a mission. Hey, I'm in here. I'm here to put on the blinders. I'm here to work out. I'm not here to socialize. I'm not here to chat. I'm just in here, get the job done, get in, get out, and then get on with the rest of your day. You can still be very effective with your gym workouts. Another thing I find too is I've noticed this myself. My workouts will expand based on how much time I allow for them. Now, I'll be totally honest. I love being able to go into the gym and not stare at the clock and just focus on, okay, this is my mean time. I can go in here. I can do what I want without feeling pressured, without feeling like I got to stare at the clock and be out of here at a certain time. I love those workouts where I can just be in the moment, enjoy it, and forget everything else. But there are times when, okay, I got appointments, I got coaching calls, I got whatever stuff on the go. I have an hour. I got to be in and out of here in an hour, right? I do have to stare at the damn clock, right? If not, I'm going to be late. And you know what? I can still get in a great workout, right? It's like your workouts can expand or contract to fit your time schedule as long as you focus on it. So, and sometimes even those shorter workouts can be even more intense, because you're not dilly-dallying, you're not wasting time, you're not gauging in that mindless chit-chat or taking those extra long rest breaks. You're just in there like boom, 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 get shit done. And sometimes they can actually be some of the most productive workouts. So yeah, you can absolutely make them more effective. All right, have a sip of water and we'll get ready to clue this up. We're almost at the hour mark. I'm going to have me pretty much a hard stop. Like I'm not going to be dilly-dallying much more than the hour here. So I'll answer another question or two and then we'll clue it up. Jose saying, last week you mentioned that push-ups are great as a chest finisher. Should they be only done on chest day or every day, and for how long? That depends on you and your goals. I have done push-ups more regularly and more consistently than that. I mean, they are a great chest exercise, but if you want to prioritize the chest, then you can add in extra push-ups more often than that. Like this is one of my strategies for people who say like, hey, my chest is a weak body part. I really want to prioritize it and add some extra mass to my chest. And I say, well, let's start doing push-ups. Let's do them every single day. And just start off slow. Like let's just do a set of push-ups every day. And then build up the volume over time. So it might be just a simple, like one set of push-ups every morning in addition to your gym workouts. And then once that starts to feel easy, let's do a set of push-ups in the morning and then a set of push-ups in the evening, in addition to your gym workouts, and just let that extra volume compound over time. I mean, that's one of the best ways to build up a stubborn body part, because that frequency of training, it's like submaximal effort, but done frequently, and you're regularly pumping blood and nutrients into the muscles. You're regularly activating the muscles, but you're not doing so to such a degree that they're breaking down and they're getting sore and it's really hindering your recovery. It's just like bang out a set of push-ups. That's it, right? Maybe 2 sets at most, and then just leave it at that. And you'll find that this little tiny burst of stimulation done frequently, like your body will adapt, your body will recover from it. And it's amazing how fast you can actually progress by doing that. And I found that doing shorter, more frequent workouts is actually very often a better way to make gains than going in there and doing these big, long marathon workouts where you just annihilate the body parts. Like I haven't done that in years. So like I've literally haven't done that since, not in the last 15 or more years have I done a full-on annihilation body part workout where, okay, it's chest day, I'm going to go in there and blast out 20 or 30 sets of chest, or it's back day, I'm going to go in there and blast 20, 30 sets of back, or whatever. I usually do total body workouts or different variations where I might pick a few body parts, but I'm not going in there and annihilating any one muscle group. I just do a little bit of stimulation, let it rest, recover, grow. A little bit of stimulation, let it rest, recover, grow. And I find that that's a faster way to make progress. And it's also a great way to prevent injury and alleviate all the aches and pains and joint stuff and tendinitis and all the shit that we were talking about. I find that when you do that little bit of stimulation, rest, recover, grow, it works so much better versus doing these massive marathon workouts where you just annihilate the body part. So yeah, you can do push-ups or other exercises more frequently, but the thing is you just want to make sure that your body can recover from them. And another thing I should mention as well, like sometimes people get into this like push-up challenges, for example, like, hey, I'm going to do 100 push-ups a day for the next 30 days. Yeah, it sounds cool and everything else, but when you start pushing yourself to the degree like that, sometimes you can overwork the muscles and extend it beyond your body's ability to recover from those workouts. So if any time you're doing extra workouts like this and you just feel really sore, like maybe your shoulders are hurting, your pecs are sore, and you're just, I don't feel like doing it today, skip it. Like an extra day of recovery is certainly not going to hurt, especially if you're feeling tired and sore and you feel you need the recovery. Like listen to your body. But if everything's feeling good, there's no aches, there's no pain, there's no soreness, there's nothing wrong with doing some extra training. Right? So you need to adjust it according to how your body's responding. And I do this all the time. Like even if I have a structured workout plan, if I'm feeling painfully sore or I'm feeling extra tired or I didn't sleep well the night before, like I have no problem deviating from the plan, either skipping the workout entirely and just take an extra rest day, or do an easier variation instead. Like I'm totally fine with that. And you should be able to be flexible and listen to your body and adjust it accordingly. All right, what else we got? There are several other questions coming through here. Got Margaret joining in. Hey, Mr. Hayward. Great running into you recently. I was motivated by your words to begin working out again. Doing something is better than nothing, no matter how little. Thank you. Awesome. I'm glad to share a few words of advice. And that is my motto. It really is. Something is better than nothing, right? Like a little bit of something done consistently is going to compound over time. And another one that I like to say as well is just keep reminding this to myself: consistency over intensity. Like a little bit done consistently is way better than going in there and trying to do this massive workout or kill yourself in the gym. Like I would rather show up and do a little tiny workout and do that frequently and consistently than infrequently going in there and just, balls to the wall, full on 100% intensity. That all or nothing approach rarely works because you can't sustain that all out intensity for long before you're going to burn out or get injured. But this good enough and good enough consistently, or another way of putting it, we want to be consistently good versus occasionally great. Like consistently good. And this is a common trend that I see a lot among a lot of like top level athletes in all different sports, and even like when you look at business people and people who are successful or musicians, or it's not that they're really doing anything crazy, but they're just really good at the basics and they're consistent with the basics. Like they're not doing crazy things, like they're not doing crazy workouts or crazy meal plans or crazy anything, but they're just good enough, and they're good enough consistently, and they're doing the basics day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out. And then you see them and it's like, well, what the hell are you doing? Like, what's the secret? It's like, I'm not doing anything crazy. I'm just doing my little thing, but I'm doing it consistently. Right. I mean, like if anybody's ever played music, I love the analogy of music. Like if you just pick up your instrument and play, but you do it every day, or at least 5 days a week. I mean, of course you can skip a day here and there, but like if let's just say like my son Harvey's playing the drums. If he picks up his drumsticks and he plays the drums, even if it's only for a few songs or a few minutes a day, but he does that consistently 5 days of the week, along with his music lessons. If he does that week after week after week, I mean, it's inevitable that he's going to improve, right? That's it. It's inevitable. But if he goes big, long gaps, like he doesn't touch the drums for a couple weeks, and then he sits down and he tries to bang it out for an hour or two, and then he goes another couple weeks without touching it, and then he tries to bang it out for an hour or two, the level of progress is going to be so inconsistent and haphazard versus just that daily consistency. You just pick it up, do a little bit every day or a little bit frequently, versus trying to do these big monster sessions infrequently. Right? Consistency over the intensity. Right? It's huge. It makes a massive difference. And if we're looking for the shortcut to success or the secret to success, I would say that's it. Being good enough, but good enough consistently versus this all or nothing. Anyway, folks, I'm going to get ready and clue it up because it is Valentine's Day after all, and my lovely wife has a dinner prepared for us, so I'm going to go out and enjoy a family dinner, and I will clue this up. But in the meantime, if there's anything that we talked about here during the chat that you would like to elaborate on, or if you have any questions that didn't get discussed, feel free to reach out to me. I have my contact information down in the show notes below, so you can reach out to me either through social media. You can message me through Facebook or through Instagram. You can send me an email. Either one of those are fine, and I'd be happy to have a chat with you. And in the meantime, if you enjoyed the live stream Q&A, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel if you haven't already done so. And I will talk to you same time next week. Have yourself a great one. Take care. Over and out.